Hello everyone. Got a comment the other day about B12. Is it irresponsible to be a vegan for 10 years and not take B12? I have been a vegan for 10 years and have not taken B12 supplementation. I have not died. I have not lost my spinal column. I do not have nerve damage as far as I'm aware. I still feel my fingers and toes and I don't get tingling sensations and a feeling of pain or whatever, or something going up my back and all that kind of stuff, shooting up and down my back. I don't get that kind of stuff. Um, or really any of the other symptoms of B12 deficiency that I've looked at. My only ever blood test was as part of a study. They didn't bring it up as being an issue. It was a couple of years ago, to be fair. And yeah, I'm fully aware of B12 and what the vegan doctors, vegan experts say about it, the vegan society, and so on. So I'm not particularly worried about it, and it's a completely reversible situation if it does occur, as far as I'm aware. But a lot of people that kind of either get told they had B12 deficiency, or maybe they did have it, or they had some symptoms and they decided to attribute that to B12 deficiency, get very scared about it and can get very evangelical about it and start to tell every vegan they need to take B12 or more B12 and all your issues are to do with B12. And I saw this happening with a guy who I knew who was incredibly evangelical about B12, and he'd had his own story and about B12. And I remember I can't even remember where this was, but we were with a group of people and there was a guy there who said he was vegetarian. Probably wasn't. He probably wasn't really. He might have been kind of vegetarian, that's my guess. Certainly wasn't vegan, most likely. And obviously wasn't raw vegan. And the guy was mentioning, sometimes being depressed and sometimes being this and that. And this friend of mine went, B12, your B12's low. You need to go and check your B12. Now, that's the attitude of a lot of people that have had B12 issues or whatever. They see the world as like everyone's got a B12 deficiency and you need to check your B12 and all your issues are to do with B12. And I personally doubt that that's the case for very many people. As far as I look into B12 deficiency, is something for some reason that happens to older people more commonly, regardless of diet, and it's something that happens with alcoholics, drug addicts, people that have had parts of their stomach removed, which is where it was actually discovered. And it really comes down to a theory mostly that when B12 was discovered, it was then also discovered, well, this is in animal products and not in fruits and vegetables. It is in fruits and vegetables. Not in a large amount, but it will be. And therefore, if this is only in animal products, then B12 deficiency must therefore happen in vegetarians. That's how it was discovered. The concept, the idea, and and that's basically the thinking that's still going on. And people will test for low B12, and they'll say, "Oh, that's B12 deficiency." And that's interesting because a deficiency, I would assume, would have some symptoms. So if you have symptoms, then that makes sense. If you don't have symptoms and your B12 is low according to a particular scale, then I'm not sure what the issue is. And people get very scared about it. And when people get scared, they make decisions without really thinking properly. And that's all fine. So, I mean, a lot of people take B12. But the idea that someone's going vegan today and tomorrow they're thinking, I better go out and take B12, like, I think that's not really right. And it's not really the issue for most people, and it's not the problem for most people. And I don't know why people love to talk about deficiencies and how they cure deficiencies and all that stuff. I'm not sure why that's something so desperate for people to talk about, but it is. And people don't like to say I was an alcoholic. They're not going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you I was taking loads of drugs. They might not tell you that. They probably won't tell you they weren't really even vegan. They're probably definitely not going to tell you that one. Or do you think that the people that tell you they're vegan are all vegan? I would like to think that. You think that the people going to the vegan doctors that all have B12 deficiency, they're all perfect vegans? Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it'd be nice if people just never told lies about what they eat and their lifestyle. It'd be great. But we have no clue. But regardless of all that, I have some skepticism about it, but I take it seriously to the degree that I think it has to be taken, which is it makes up 0.01% of what I think about my nutrition or diet, which I think is the right amount. Whereas some people, it's 50%, 60%, or 80%. And deficiencies are like 95% of what they think about. Fair enough. I think you should be more worried about deficiencies on every other diet and not a diet where you're eating the foods that your body is best adapted to receive its nutrition from. So, B12 deficiency. I think it's a little bit of a bogeyman, to be honest, when you've got a diet that causes heart disease, diabetes, cancer, arthritis, autoimmune conditions of all types, obesity, mental health issues. The list goes on. And then you've got vegan diet and people say B12 deficiency, and that seems to be more dangerous in people's minds. When a B12 deficiency has a very simple solution. All of those other things require huge lifestyle change. So, which is quite complicated thing to do for a lot of people. Taking a B12 supplement is not a particularly difficult thing to do if you want. But I don't tell you to do my experiment. My prediction is that I can probably go many years without taking B12. I'm not saying it's the best thing. Might be a dumb idea. Not particularly worried about being tested. And it might be the case that if I was to go out and take B12, that overnight I'm a different person. All of a sudden I've got all this energy. I'm sleeping perfectly. I'm sexually much more whatever. Whatever's the best thing to be sexually or whatever. You can last forever and you just erections all the time or whatever. I don't know what people are looking for. Your mind's just absolutely perfect all the time. You're like, yeah, maybe that's what happens if I take B12. Somehow I don't think so. I think it's probably something that, like other people that I've met, you will feel virtually no difference. Some people are very susceptible to the placebo effect. So they're like, oh my God, I felt so different. Yeah, well, not buying it really. But if someone was to say to me, I'm going to follow exactly what you tell me to do, if I'm responsible 100% for someone else, doing a raw vegan or vegan diet, I would probably get them to take B12, because I don't know, and I don't want to be responsible for someone else. My suspicion is it's not really an issue. It's not really the issue that it's made out to be. And when the vegan doctors say, "Oh, I've seen people that have, you know, had really bad issues with B12," like, you mean alcoholics? You mean drug addicts? Like, what are you telling us that healthy vegans, they definitely have lower B12, no doubt. The test shows that. The question is that level of B12 actually an adequate level? Is that actually the optimal level? Because a lot of the levels of what we're meant to have, I mean, the diet that people are recommended to have is a diet that includes dairy products, includes meat and fish, includes oil even. And these are all foods, for me, causing disease that don't need to be in anyone's diet. And then cooked foods, which don't need to be in people's diet. And the levels of nutrition required of each of these particular nutrients, macro and micronutrients, or micronutrients at least, well, also protein, but they're all way too, as far as I can see, they're all way too high. Well, they must be too high, because I never hit any of those numbers. I never get anywhere near any of those numbers. So somehow I'm still not falling apart. If you have a deficiency, you will really know about it quick. It's not so you can't just go about without a critical, vitamin in your diet. This is the thing about B12. How can you go 10 years without it? You go 3 weeks without vitamin C, you're gonna know about it. You've got, like, your gums are gonna be bleeding, your skin's falling apart, like you're dying. Same with all of these, the B vitamin deficiencies. That's what I don't get. There's these other B vitamins. You don't get them, if you don't get them, you're going to be messed up really super quick. Super duper quickly. But B12, it's just like you can go without it for 10 years, no problem. How does that make any sense? Oh, you've got it stored in your liver. Well, maybe, but for 10 years? You get a 10-year store? Why would you have a 10-year store? I don't know. So I'm skeptical. I am skeptical about it. But if you were to tell me you're going to follow exactly what I say, I wouldn't tell you to do my experiment exactly. But that's how I feel about it. A lot of people start to take B12, assuming they need it, thinking they need it, thinking it might make a difference, and it's maybe a bit of an insurance thing. And that's the sad thing about a lot of these supplements, is they're really sold, or people buy it almost as like, oh, this is an insurance policy against ill health. It's really not. But that's how I think about it, I guess. So thanks for watching. Is it irresponsible? Maybe it is, but I'm I don't know, seeing how it goes, I guess. I don't seem to have any symptoms of B12 deficiency. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you in another video. Feel free to subscribe. And that's all.